Hi and welcome back. Now, last week I asked you to vote on the video that you wanted to see next and you chose air fryer accessories. So this is it. In this video, I will show you all the most popular accessories you can buy, tell you which ones I use, which ones are gathering dust in my cupboard, and show you what you might already have in your kitchen at home that will do the job without costing you any extra money. Now, a quick note first, the accessories in this video are mainly aimed at people who have an air fryer with a drawer, but if you have another type, there will still be useful information coming up. So the one accessory that I can guarantee you will use is a set of tongs, and they're also one of the least expensive things to buy. You'll use them nearly every time you cook for turning or lifting things out of the drawer. Just make sure you get the kind with silicone tips so you don't damage the non-stick coating on your drawers. Racks are something I see a lot of new air fryer owners buying, and I think they're often something that ends up not being used. There are two broad types, ones which are made so that you can stack layers of things in the drawer, and ones which are more specialist to hold particular things in the drawer. Now, the type that are for stacking usually have 2 or 3 layers, and the idea is that you can fit more in whilst allowing the air to circulate around what you're cooking. I have one like this and I've only used it once, mostly because they don't use the space in the drawer very efficiently and they don't quite deliver on that promise of doubling capacity. Some of the racks you can buy come with skewers. If you like cooking kebabs, these are worth having, but bear in mind that because of the size of your air fryer, you'll only get a few skewers and they're usually quite short. You can also get a toast rack for your air fryer. This one came with my jewel basket Kasori. You can cook toast in the air fryer, and if you're pushed for space in your kitchen, some people give up their toaster entirely and switch to the air fryer, so they are useful. You can also use this rack for anything that has a large surface area but isn't too thick, like frozen burgers or hash browns. Turning whole chickens in the drawer of your air fryer can be tricky, and you can buy a poultry turning fork to make that easier. But before you rush out and buy one, bear in mind that you could just use a carving fork and it would do a very similar job. One accessory that all new air fryer owners could benefit from is a conversion chart, and the good news is you can get one for free. There's one linked in the description down below. If you're still finding your feet with times and temperatures, then they're really useful because they will help you to quickly translate recipes from a conventional oven to an air fryer. If you find it particularly useful, there are a few places that make more permanent ones as magnets for your fridge. Now I'm going to wade into controversial territory and talk about silicone liners. They are one of the most discussed air fryer accessories and they're a little bit like Marmite. To be clear, I am a Marmite lover, but not a silicone liner lover. Those that do like them will say that they are good for containing mess and for making wet food like lasagna or cottage pie. But if you ask me, I would tell you that they're often quite difficult to wash up because of those ribbed bottoms you find in them, and the black ones in particular never look clean again, even if you only use them once. They're also poor heat conductors and they slow cooking time down, and some people say that they even affect the taste of food. So I personally don't recommend buying them. I think there are better things for putting wet food in and other options for keeping your drawer clean, and those will be coming up in a moment. One possible use for those silicone liners though is that a lot of them do have handles, and so that means you can put dishes inside them and then use the liner, which as I say is a poor conductor of heat, to lift dishes in and out of the drawer. But there are also other options for doing that too. So the cheapest kind of lifter that you can get is actually one you make at home, a DIY option, a tin foil sling, which you make by placing tin foil underneath a container in your drawer, making sure it doesn't stick out of the top of the drawer too much. You can also use oven mitts, and there are small silicone ones made especially for air fryers, or you can use a normal oven glove, but they tend to be a bit bulky. There is also a specially designed lifter you can buy, and I was cynical about this until I tried one, but they do a pretty good job. They work best on dishes with a lip. You hook them around the dish, squeeze and lift and then release. They cost about £7 or $10, and I find them quite useful. I said there are better options to cook wet dishes, and the good news is you may already have them in your kitchen cupboards. Remember, anything that is oven proof can be used in an air fryer. I had a look through my cupboards and found these that all fit my air fryer. This is a metal takeaway style dish, great for batch cooking and sticking in the freezer. You can actually use them more than once, of course, you just have to wash them up. Then I have more of a ceramic style dish. I've had this one for about 20 years, but it fits all the air fryers that I've tried. And these metal dishes are great for single portions too, and they stack so they don't take up a lot of room in the cupboard. Also, a quick mention for cake tins. You probably have cake tins like this, which are 23 centimetres or 9 inches wide and will be too big for a lot of air fryers. But I also have these smaller ones, which I already had in my cupboard. They're 19 centimetres or 7 inches wide, and they fit perfectly in my 2-drawer cassourie. By the way, if you're downsizing tins like this and you're wondering how you work out what fraction of the recipe to use for a smaller tin, there is a brilliant website called Omni Calculator where you go on it, tell it what size tin you usually use for a recipe and the size that you want to use instead, and it does all the maths on the ingredients for you. On the subject of cakes, you may have been considering what size loaf tins will fit into your air fryer. A £2 tin is what you would normally put in a big oven, but there are smaller £1 tins you can buy for air fryers. These are great for cakes, but bear in mind, if you use them to make a loaf, you will end up with tiny slices of bread. So I said there were better options than silicone to keep the drawers of your air fryer clean, and these are them. Disposable liners made from greaseproof paper. Either ones with sides, these arrive from Amazon a little squashed, or ones which are perforated and flat. I like the flat perforated ones. Air can still circulate through them, but they will contain the bulk of the mess, like melted cheese. Just a quick note though, don't put them into the drawer without anything on top of them because of course they're lightweight, and if you turn the preheat function on they will blow up into the heating element and catch fire. So chances are your muffin or cupcake trays that you normally use in your oven won't fit in your air fryer. So you can buy mini ones for air fryers, but do check the sizes carefully as they're often very small. A better option is to buy individual silicone moulds or ramekins. The silicone ones like this have handles, which is perfect. And I know what you're thinking. I told you that silicone was a poor heat conductor, but it is a trade-off and you can get away with it more with small things. And of course, they are non-stick and stuff pops out of them really easily. You can also use metal pudding basins or oven-proof ramekins. These work for individual puddings, cakes, or for the British audience, Yorkshire puddings. And talking of which, you can just make one large Yorkshire pudding in the drawer of your air fryer. Just take the crisper tray out. Another must-have accessory, but you may already have one, is a meat thermometer. I use one a lot, particularly when I'm cooking chicken. It's particularly useful because it will take you a while to get used to timings in your air fryer, and so it removes any element of doubt about whether the food is cooked. Some air fryers are sold with a built-in probe already, but I personally like having a standalone one because I can use it in a variety of applications. I also have this magnet, which I got from Pampered Chef years ago with the temperatures for different meats. But if you don't have something like that, then just remember 74 Celsius, which is the most important temperature, as that's the one for chicken. To get a crispy finish on your food, you will need something to apply oil to your savoury dishes. You can either use a silicone brush to coat the food or a spray bottle, but don't buy the pre-filled oil sprays because they contain an ingredient that can damage the non-stick coating of air fryers. And a lot of instruction books now include a warning about that. Instead, buy an empty oil spray bottle and fill it with an oil of your choice. So there you go. I hope you found that helpful and perhaps it saved you a bit of money. If you have any questions or comments, then please do drop them below. I am sure that the silicone liner lovers will want to come back to me on why they love them. So please feel free to do that. I do read all the comments. And if you want to see more videos like this, then hit the subscribe and the notifications. Thanks for watching.